Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Hear you perfect. Okay. So, Millions platform, here with Rhea Taylor. Really excited to have you. Um, Former softball player at Missouri. When I was doing like some research to get like accolades from you and stuff like that, the
Mhm.
list was extremely long. I was like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, three-time All-American at Missouri, three-time All Big 12 first team, 2011 USA Softball College Player of the Year, top 50 watch list, Freshman of the Year. The list goes on and on. So really
Right.
excited to have you. Thanks so
Awesome.
much for
Thanks for having
being
me.
here.
Yeah. Thanks
My
for
first question for you off the bat is just talk about like your journey through getting recruited to picking Missouri and kind of leading all the way up throughout your journey.
Well, my story is kind of, it's not the old run of the mill story. Like everyone, they go through a certain process, they get recruited. Back then, it was just a little bit of a different time. But as far as my journey, getting to the point of actually getting the scholarship and being at Mizzou, I wasn't really looked at anybody else other than the coaches that coached at Mizzou. They were originally at Georgia Tech, and so I was, being pursued by Georgia Tech first, and then I went on a visit, an official visit to Georgia Tech, and when I went, they said, "Hey," it was Coach Earlywine and Coach Tucci at the time. And once I got there, did the whole visit. Then we went into the office and they talked and they were like, "Well, we're moving to Missouri." I was like, "What?" So they asked me if they were in, if if I was still interested in what they had to offer. They would be offering something similar, just depending on once they got there and really kind of laid the groundwork for what they were going to be doing. Um, the offer was still on the table. So um, I had no real intentions of going to Missouri. I mean, I had family in Missouri, live in St. Louis, but I didn't really, have any, real intention or desire to be in Missouri. But no one else looked at me, no one else, and so it just, it was still on the table, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go and take this visit, and went and took the visit. Absolutely loved it. Like, I mean, it's like the, traditional college town. It kind of reminded me of Athens. But it was everything that, I was expecting and more, just because it was just the right fit for me,
Mhm.
not just for softball, but for school as well. I initially wanted to be in the journalism program, and but soon once I got into actually playing, um, that kind of fizzled out. That wanting to not necessarily wanting to be a journalism major, I still wanted to, but um, just the time and what I had to do for that journalism major, it would just, kind of impede what I was wanting to do with softball. So, um, you know, just like how any freshman does, they change their major 1,000 times.
Yeah.
um, so so yeah, that's kind of how I ended up at Mizzou. Coach E and Coach Tucci, they took a chance on me and, left that opportunity out there for me. Even though I was wanting to look elsewhere, they still had it on the table for me, and thank God they did, because that's how I ended up there.
Yeah, and talk a little more about your freshman year. Obviously, winning Big 12 Freshman of the Year. Like, were you kind of going in with like, "Ooh, I wonder how this is going to go," like kind of uncertain? Obviously, when you step into the game, it's like it could be a whirlwind, I'm sure. But at what point
Right.
during that season did you catch serious momentum and thought like, "Oh wow, like I'm actually having a really special first season"?
It was my first game, first at bat.
Wow.
Yes, I knew I was going to be the best that I could absolutely be. because that's what my parents they left me with. That's how I grew up my entire life. Be the best at what you do, be the best on the field, be the best at hustling, be the best at hitting the ball, be the best at running, all of it. So it took some serious work. Right. That's even though I was just naturally gifted at being athletic, I still had to work really hard to do what I did. And my freshman year, I didn't really know how to set real goals or anything like that.
Mhm.
But I did, I wanted to be an All American. That was the biggest thing. I wanted to be an All American, and I wanted to, just be really great. I wanted to be really great for my team, and I wanted to really represent my parents in the best way possible because I was so far away. And I'm a big like I love being in the newspaper. I love being, because that's how it
Yeah.
was when I was in high school, like in the newspaper all the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, need to be on TV. Can't wait for that, right? And every TV game I need to be on it.
Yep.
So I prepared in such a way my freshman year that most probably wouldn't, um, because it just took a lot of work. And this was by choice. This wasn't, anyone telling me to do this. This was because I wanted to be an All-American and my coach expected me. And
Mhm.
this was a big expectation. He said, "You need to be lead off and you need to set the tone for the offense and you need to be a starter." And those are all things that I wanted to do anyways,
Yep.
right? Like I had no intention of sitting the bench whatsoever, even though I was a freshman. And, freshmen coming in, like that's typically like they don't just right off the bat, like, they're a starter or expecting to be a starter and play every single game. That's what I expected for myself. And so, in order to do that, I had to go about my practice, my own like individual practice, not just team practice, because team practice, I had to show up in a specific way. And I still had to learn a lot through that team practice and understand some things because it wasn't like high school.
Mhm.
I was playing with older girls and of course going to be playing against older girls, I needed to really learn the game in a different way. And so and just be more smart about the decisions that I made. And so as a slapper starting out, because that's what I was, I, instead of just going to team practice and that being my practice every single day, um, I did 3 hours by myself before practice. And then if I could afterward, I would do at least an hour or 2 hours after that on my own to really work on my craft and to understand how I was going to be successful every single time I got up to bat, every single time that I got in the field to play. So I did a lot of work on my own in order to understand who I was as an athlete and just as a person too, because it does take it, it really comes down to who you are.
Yeah.
Right. And the drive and the tenacity that you do have for the things that you're going after. And so I just, I put it in my mind that okay, I have to practice like this. This is what I have to do additionally to team practice. And I felt secure enough in that practice that it was going to allow me to fulfill those expectations that I only not only that my coach had, but the expectations that I had for myself. And so that's how my freshman year, my first at bat, um because I it was, no one really knows that first game, like is my name gonna be written on the lineup, right? Like you have a good idea because of maybe conversations that you've had with your coach and just how team practices went and you playing really well and all of that. But it came down to after we got in with warm-ups and he was like, okay, everybody to the dugout, lineups up on the fence. Got over there, looked at it, name was right at the top, and I was like, "Oh,"
Yeah.
like, "Yes, this is my time," right? And so he pulled me aside and he was like, "Are you ready?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good. Like, let's go. Like, let's do
Mhm.
this." And so I got up there and we were playing Virginia Tech at the time, and And Angela Tincher was pitching, and she was at the time one of the best pitchers in the country, if not the best pitcher in the country. And she had the best rise ball. And so, it was me as a freshman going up against a junior, someone who's already had, experience playing in college. And my coach, no one knew, what was going to happen, what to expect. But I just knew that, okay, I'm going to be my best regardless of who's up there. Doesn't matter if she's a junior, it doesn't matter if she's labeled as the best pitcher in the country. I'm just going to go out there and do what I do best. And that's just, play softball. So, I mean, I got up there my first at bat, and I had 17 foul balls. 17
What?
foul
In
balls
your first at bat?
first
Wow,
at bat. 17 foul balls, and I
that's
got,
impressive.
yes. And I mean, it was like, and it was all rise balls. She kept going higher and higher, and I was just like, oh my God, like what's gonna happen? Like even I like I was like, oh my gosh, like when is this gonna end? Right? Like who's gonna win? Because I mean, she was giving everything that she got.
Yeah.
She was giving everything, and I was giving everything. And so it ended up being I got into a full count, and there's nobody on base. I'm lead off, and so I was like, okay, Rhea, like you have got to get on base. You spent so much time up here, up your bat, up the bat. 17 foul balls. You got deep into the count. 3 balls, right? Like you're not walking. Like don't expect to walk whatsoever. And so, that next one at that whatever after whatever it was after whatever foul ball, the 17th, and then maybe there was a ball, but that next one I hit a ball right through the 5-6 hole, exactly where I practiced hitting it, exactly where my coach expected me to, what I've done in team practice and what I visualized before the game. And it was amazing. Like I hit it through the 5-6 hole, rounded first base, looked at the left fielder, right, and then like got back on base, and my coach was like, "Yeah." So it was pretty awesome, and that was really when I knew that, like, oh yeah, like my college career is about to take off, and it
Mhm.
did.
Yeah.
So, and I was the one of the only ones that scored a run. I stole second and got over to third, and then I scored from that. So it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, that actually parlays pretty good into my next question. I was gonna ask, as a leadoff hitter, obviously there's a unique pressure to set the tone, and that's not just for you, but for the entire lineup. Especially, like you just said, 17, almost 20 pitches. For most pitchers, like the inning, they're done after that. You know what I mean? Like
Right, exactly.
there's nothing else left to. You're not going to see anything else. You saw everything, and that kind of goes for the rest of
Yep,
the lineup. How did
absolutely.
you mentally prepare for that role every game?
It's just something that, it's an expectation. Obviously, you have an expectation for yourself, and you don't want to get too unrealistic with those expectations, right? Like, because it's easy to be like, I've got to get on every single at bat, and
Mhm.
that's just simply not going to happen, right? Like, you're not going to get on every single at bat, but what you can do is have a quality at bat. What you can do is swing the bat when you're supposed to. What you can do is swing with conviction. What you can do is just get up there and give your best, like, whatever that looks like, that's what you can do, right? And so whatever comes from that, right? If that means that you get on base, that means that you advance runners, that means that you score runners, or maybe you just didn't get on that time, right? Like that's okay as long as you've given your best. And so I that's how I chose to treat it every single time. Like, just get up there and just do your thing. Like, don't worry about, there shouldn't be like a pressed thing where I gotta get on, or I've gotta move the runner, or I gotta score the runner. Even though I was in situations that required me to do and fulfill those expectations, right? Like move the runner, score the runner, get on base. Um, I tried not to allow those moments to be too big. right? Like I wanted to stay within the moment, within myself, and to understand, okay, I've done this over and over and over again. I've done this for years. So what makes this moment any different? Like, because when we went to the World Series, even when we were playing my freshman year against Alabama in the Super Regionals, right? We didn't end up going to the World Series that year, but that was the furthest that we had went, as Mizzou did, in like I don't know, it was like 15 or 20 years or something like that, right? And so it was, it's really just about like, yes, there are expectations that are placed on you, right? Like from your coach, from your parents, even from your teammates, because they expect you to do certain things too, just based off of what they've seen in practice, and what they see that you can do. But it's important to understand that those expectations are most likely the same expectations that you have for yourself. And
Mm.
so that's what allows it to be, in like, instead of it being this grand or this big thing, it becomes this like, okay, like, yeah, like this is what I want too.
Yeah.
And so it's just easier to translate that whenever you get in the mindset of that, of like, this is what I want, um, and then you're able to translate that over to the game. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and,
how I
like,
just kind of made it. Yeah.
I remember, like, when I was in high school, I batted leadoff for a few years, and, like, if I ever got out, like, first at bat of the game, I'd always be so mad. So, like, I'd be like, "Oh, now I gotta wait, like, until the 3rd or 4th inning to bat again,"
Oh
it's,
my
like,
God, I know.
frustrating as a leadoff guy. You
Yes,
just wanna get on, you just wanna make an impact right away. And I
absolutely.
realized too, like, you know what? I'm probably gonna see this guy again my
Mm-hmm.
second at bat. So really just what makes a huge difference, especially for me when I played, was just learning, okay, I know what he's gonna throw me the next at bat, and just because even if you get out, you still learn a lot in the at bat, and I think
Absolutely.
that makes a major difference as well. Did you find that to
Yeah.
be true?
Oh yeah. I tell my athletes now that, you should take those, whatever, if you striking out, flying out, grounding out, right? Like take those as, even though it's a negative, right? Take it
Mm,
as positive feedback, because now you understand, okay, on this specific pitch, right? Or in within this part of the at bat, like this is what I need to make sure that I'm identifying that this is the pitch that's coming in, right? That if I popped up my last at bat and it was a rise ball or something like that, right? Like I need to make sure that I do this on the rise ball the next time. So it's just that positive feedback that you need, because of, again, like you're not going to be perfect. You're
yep,
not going to win every single at bat. And that's important to understand, right? Because if you won every single at bat, then you would be perfect, right? And there'd be no need to even, reach for the stars, or yeah,
yeah,
it's like, want the accolades or whatever. It's the work that is involved in your whole process, right? From rising and falling and then getting back up again, and then understanding how to do that, right? And then at least be consistent with the rise, right? Because we want to be a little bit more consistent with the rise once we get there. But then we know some, here and there, like, you may fall a little bit, but you've got to figure out, because you had rose so high, right? Figure out those bits and pieces that allow you to rise again, right?
mm.
And so you just want to be consistent with that. It's not about being perfect, it's just about improving and being better each time, right? So yeah.
So during your softball career, I mean, there's obviously a lot of highs, but talk a little bit about the lows. Was there ever a moment, whether it be in college or high school or really any time during your career, was there a moment where you were ever like, oh, like I don't know if this softball thing's gonna work out? Like this is a rough stretch I'm on. Like, will I ever see the other side of it? Where those thoughts because
Yeah.
sometimes slumps are tough, obviously.
Oh my gosh, yes. So my sophomore year, after I had this like grandiose freshman year, right? I mean, I was like badass. Like it was just
Mm,
like so awesome. My sophomore year, everybody's like, "Oh, don't want to go through the sophomore slump," right?
yeah.
And I'm like, I had never heard of that. Not even in high school. I had never heard of that before until my freshman year. And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What is a sophomore slump? What are you talking about?" You know? and they were like, "Oh, it's where you like suck your sophomore year." I was like, "Yeah, no, like no way that's gonna happen to me, right?" Well, it kind of did, right? Just a teeny little like slot in my sophomore year, not the whole year. It was just like, and I actually went over 21. And that was really hard for me, because like I was a slapper in my freshman year. Like everyone was like, "Who is this girl? Like we can't get her out at all." Like I mean, I was hitting over 400. You know what I'm saying? And so, as a freshman, right, and then not just that, I stole bases, and I was, all of these different things. And so then when it came to sophomore year, like I've got to be able to keep this up, right? Be a
Mhm.
little be consistent with this, but even get better at it, right?
Yeah.
And so what happened was I had this thing in my mind that like, okay, well, I don't have to do these 3-hour individual practices anymore. Like, I don't have to do this before team practice, right? And now granted it didn't have to be 3 hours, but it still needed to be something. And I chose to just forego it. Hold on. Sorry, my kids are outside playing. But I just chose to forego the practice, the individual practice altogether, right? Because I'm thinking like team practice is enough. That's enough for me. Like, because I'm Gucci. Like, I've already had a great freshman year. Of course, like I already know what to do, right? But what I tell my athletes all the time is you have to have that individual practice because it builds the trust that you're looking for in game, and because you're able to have that intimate conversation with yourself, right, and to really sift through your thoughts and understand how to bounce back from a bad rep, right? It's not about like in your individual practice you roll over and you're like, oh, like don't do that again. That can't be the conversation, because that's more than likely what happens in the game, right? Like if you roll over and you're like, oh, like I didn't want to do that, like, and you get out,
Mhm.
right? That tends to stay with you, right? For the next at bat. Maybe even when you get on defense, it stays with you. And so if you don't do that individual practice and have those conversations with yourself and really figure out how you speak to yourself, and because how you speak to yourself is important, because if you're speaking to yourself in a negative way, you're more than likely not going to build that trust that you need, right, like for yourself, and when it comes to actually performing and believing
Mhm.
that you can actually do the thing when you're supposed to do the thing, right? And
Yep.
so you have to build that relationship with yourself so that you understand how to just be, right, how to just perform, number one, but number two, like how to bounce back and do it effectively and just let things go easily so that you can just move on. So yeah, I didn't do that. I went over 21, and this was at Texas. I ended it at the Texas series, okay? Because I was like, it was after I think like the second game, and like the Texas fans were horrible. They were like, "You suck!" Like, and I was like, ah, like, oh my goodness, like this is the worst thing ever, right? And so didn't get on. And I think Blair Luna was pitching, and she like had my number the entire time. Like the defense, they were scooping up my slaps left and right, and I was just like, ah, right. Like thank God my coach, I mean, he was a saint, because he did not sit me at all for the during this over 21. Did not sit me. He was like, you got it. Like,
Yep.
just
Gotta
push
let it
through
ride.
it. Yeah, just push through it, right? And so after that game, that second game, we went out to eat. The team did. We went to PF Chang's, and I like crawled to the bathroom, right? And I'm like on my phone, call my parents, and I'm like, I suck. Like, oh my God, we're going through this software slump. Like, help me. And my parents are like, Rhea, stop. Like, you know who you are. You know what you can do. Just be the best. Like, go back to, you know, what you know, which is just base level fundamentals, right? And that's the key too. Like,
Mm.
you don't want to forego the base level fundamentals because that's what allowed you to be who you are, right?
Yeah.
That's what built the skill. And so, I mean, that's all they had to say, right? And, just help me, through my emotions, right? Because, like, I never wanted to be too emotional, even though I was in travel ball growing up. Like, it was like, oh, if I struck out or if I, whatever,
Yeah,
it was just like, ah!
yeah.
Right. And so, they were just like, base level, like, get back to it and you'll be fine. So then that third game, that next day, I got on base and it was like a little dribbler to third base. And I was like, I mean,
All it takes.
I ran my butt off to first and he was like, safe. And I was like, ah. So that's all it took. And then from there, I went on like a 16 game hitting streak. And so, yeah. Yeah, even though I had like, all the accolades and I did well, I had some really tough
Mhm.
times, I didn't do everything, how I needed to do it, right? But that's just the way it goes, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's just important to not give up on yourself and not feel as though that you're less than or you're unworthy of doing it just because like you maybe have made a couple of bad decisions or whatever. It's just, okay, this is where you're at now. Where do you want to be? And you got to figure out that process to be able to get there.
Mhm. So, NIL, right?
Mhm.
If you won the Big 12 Freshman of the Year in 2025, a lot of money. Do you ever think about, like, "Oh, like, what if NIL was a thing, like, when I was playing?" Like, is that a
Oh my gosh,
how would you have how would you have approached that?
I'd be a millionaire. I'd be like, give me all the money. It's mine. It's mine. I work for this.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Like, I think about it all the time. Like, and even though like I am so happy for these athletes now. Hold on, hold on. Okay, hold on. Um, no. Shh. Hold on. Um, Sorry.
Yeah.
So even though I'm like super happy for all of these athletes that are getting paid, I mean, and getting paid well, right? Um, there is a piece of me that's like, oh my gosh, like, man, like, can I suit up again? Like, can I go back? Like, can someone give me a scholarship so I can do this again? But yeah, yeah, it's definitely something that I think about. But of course, like, someone had to blaze the trail.
Mhm. Yeah. What do you think is, like, the most misunderstood, um, thing about being a high-level softball player, especially by, like, fans or the media?
um, you said the most misunderstood. Sorry, I had to move
Yeah.
locations. I would think that playing your sport is easy. That's the most misunderstood. Like, yeah, you've been playing it for years, but that doesn't mean anything. Like, that it, it when you're playing against other people, it's unpredictable, right? Like, you don't, even though you watch film and you have all this intel on the other team, that doesn't mean that like you're going to just, you know, win every single time. That doesn't mean that. That doesn't mean that you're, can it happen like that? Yes. But at the same time, like, you know, playing in front of thousands of people is not easy. It's just simply not easy, especially if you're playing against a school that has a great fan culture. Just, because if you're playing against like in Oklahoma, if you're playing against in Alabama, the culture there is crazy,
Mhm.
right? Even Mizzou's culture is insane, right? Playing in the Mizzou stadium, it's not easy for other teams, right? It is for the, it was for me, right? Because it was all of, our fans and we loved it.
Mhm.
But, playing in front of or in a stadium that has a culture, a big culture, deep rooted culture, and just in general, just playing, and then let's add TV on top of that. Like, it's just It's not easy. Um, and it does take, like, there is a lot of mental work that is involved in that, because it's not just you playing in front of the fans that are there. Like, if you're on TV, you're playing in front of potentially millions of people.
Mhm.
And so, but here's the other thing too, like, because you're an athlete, you put yourself out there and knowing that you are going to be scrutinized, like, and talked about, like, people know exactly who you are, and know how you should be playing or what you should be doing, team practice, or in team practice or your individual practice. They just act like they know everything, right? But they truly don't. Like, you don't know what it's like to be a college athlete, or just a high level athlete, because I played USA and played pro too. Like, you just don't know if you've never stepped foot on a field being a pro athlete or a college athlete. You have no idea how difficult it is.
Mhm. And if you could go back and give, uh, 18-year-old Rhea Taylor advice just about, like, the softball journey, about life, about what you're doing now, like, training athletes, growing the game, what advice would you give?
Be yourself as much as you can. Just be yourself. Like, don't allow anyone to change who you are, change your thoughts on whatever it is. Now, if it's and if it's something that you need to grow in, do your growing, improving, and all that. But to the core of you, remain who you are, and stay true to that, and just have fun. Like, I think that a lot of athletes get kind of caught up in the business of it all, right? And it being that, like, I gotta do this, like, gotta make sure this happens. And um I think they just get caught up in that, instead of it just being like, hey, this is just a game.
Mm,
Just a game, and you're supposed to have fun doing this. And because it is a game, and because you've chosen to do this, like, why not have fun? Right? Like, school is something that you have to do. Sports is something that you want to do. Right? It's just something that you choose, and you're like, okay, yeah, like, and you can show everybody how good you are doing that thing. So just stay true to who you are and have fun always.
alright. Yeah, I guess we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Rhea, for
Yeah.
on. I'm glad we could do this.
Yeah, me too. It was great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Alright, have a great rest of your day, and,
Alrighty.
go Missouri. Good luck to them this com
That's right. MIZ.
okay. Alright,
Thank you. All
take
right.
care.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.